Dead Island 2, Back from the Dead. Well, it's been 12 years since the last one, considering this one was 9 years in development hell. Well, now it's finally out, and it's alright. The combat and weapons are pretty solid, though. The guns could be better. It still takes a bunch of bullets to kill zombies, and the shotgun is basically useless with how many shells it takes to kill a single zombie. But the guns aren't really the main focus, but sometimes when I'm using a gun, it feels like I'm playing a scuffed Back for Blood, which is already kinda scuffed in itself. The weapons have 3 tiers. You have common green, rare blue, superior purple, just not to spoil anything. And just like in the first one, your weapons have a durability meter, but unlike Breath of the Wild and Dying Light 2, you can repair and upgrade your weapons at a workbench. The upgrades range from making your weapons deal bleed damage, fire damage, acid damage, shock damage, mutilation damage, or making your weapon faster at the cost of force or stronger at the cost of durability. It's not the deepest customization, but it's good enough for what it needs to be, and it does a pretty good job of making your weapon feel like your own. Or, you can always scrap a weapon for materials to upgrade other weapons. Speaking of combat, it's the best part of the game. The mechanics are top notch. You have blunt striking weapons when, like when you hit a zombie, body parts will go flying off and become dislocated, or if you have a slashing weapon, you'll be able to see their insides like ribcage, lungs, intestines. And then there's piercing weapons where you could leave some pretty gnarly holes. And you could even dismember dead bodies, and body parts even move if you hit them. You can even add like fire or acidic upgrades to your weapons to burn your enemies to a crisp or melt them down. The gore is just insane and kinda gross. You unlock them gradually while playing through leveling up. They're a neat feature though. You could even throw your weapons or equip throwable objects like rotten meat to attract zombies, or a Molotov, pipe bomb, grenades, and even shurikens. I like these, and at least for me, they were pretty effective. Well, the exploration is pretty limited. In Dead Island 2, you could explore a zombie-ridden LA. Going into this, I thought it was going to be completely open world, as in, you could go from the starting location in Bel Air all the way to the end in Hollywood Boulevard with little to no loading screens, and maybe being able to explore Anaheim, Valencia, the surrounding cities. But that's not how it works. Everything's cut into levels. You have Bel Air, Venus Beach, Santa Monica, just to name a few. So it's a bit like Tony Hawk, where you can pick a level to explore, which this game kind of reminds me of for some reason while exploring Beverly Hills. But that doesn't mean the level design is bad. It's actually pretty good. You have quite a bit of secrets you could discover, like rooms in which you can only access if you have a fuse, or safes in which you can only access if you have the corresponding key, even if it's a trash bin. Seriously, what's preventing your character from breaking it with your weapon? All these rooms have a chest that have a few materials in them, and more often than not, a pretty good weapon. My personal favorite weapon to use is the hunting knife because of how fast it attacks, and the katanas. I can't really speak for Bel Air or Beverly Hills because I've never been there, but Venus Beach, Ocean Avenue, and Santa Monica look pretty accurate to their real life counterparts. I was able to tell where I was at and going to. It's basically like you're there, ignoring all the zombies. The game is also running in Unreal Engine 5, which means lumens. The lighting is really good, especially when it comes to certain reflections on the floor and while looking outside. The light bouncing around the interior is really good. But when it comes to mirrors, well, what happened here? This is just a flat image. It's not even a screen space or cube's reflection. It's really weird because the rest of the game looks really nice, and then you get to the mirrors, so what gives? Well, at least the sound design is pretty good. You can hear zombies roaming around and making sounds inside of a building if you listen closely from outside, and the gun sounds are fine, but the sounds that play when you're hitting a zombie is also pretty good. And as for the music, well, I wasn't able to hear it at all. I actually had to lower every other audio setting just to be able to hear, but just barely. It feels like there's barely any music playing at all, but maybe that's just me. Well, besides all of that, you have the story, side quests, and Lost and Found, where you have to find missing people. Lost and Found is just okay. In Ocean Avenue, you can find a billboard for missing people where you can start a few, or you can find a locked chest that belongs to someone that you'll need to find. The way you find them is by picking up collectibles that are scattered across the map. That will give you a hint on where you can find the next collectible, and so on until you eventually find them. Sometimes you're not even at the place you're searching. You could be finding hits for a missing person in, say, Beverly Hills, but turns out they're actually in Bel Air. And even then, you have to search across the entire map if you don't already know where they're at. More often than not, well, the person is already dead, so you usually end up having to fight them. And then there's the side quests. There's quite a bit of them. They mostly pad out and extend the time you'll be spending playing the game, since the game isn't really that long. I think the coolest one is where you're in a blue room partaking in a recreation of D-Day. There's definitely more side missions than story missions though. As for the main story, you could go through it in maybe 10, 11 hours. It's pretty rough, not gonna lie though. It's fine, but man, you could just tell that Dead Island 2 has been in development hell. The story feels unfinished because right when it starts to pick up and starts getting interesting, it ends very abruptly with stuff still left unresolved, either because they're sequel baiting or saving it for DLC. And that feels kinda scummy considering the game already costs $70 and you're gonna have to spend even more money to be able to get a proper ending down the line. Talk about an ending ruining everything. And even then, the story was just kind of there to get you moving from one place to the other. So it was kind of good until it wasn't. Well, now on to the characters. We have 6 playable characters: Carla, Jacob, Amy, Ryan, Danny, and Bruno. I picked Carla. She was fine, she wasn't annoying or anything, and she was pretty funny at points. Which character you pick though will definitely have an impact on how much you enjoy the game though. Some are definitely more annoying than others though, and you can play the whole thing with friends, which is what I did. I played the whole thing in co-op, and it definitely made playing through the game a bit better. They were playing as Jacob and Amy. Jacob was fine, he wasn't annoying, and he was also funny at points, while Amy, we definitely got a little annoyed by her. She was kind of whiny, and even the person playing as her got pretty annoyed and regretted choosing her. Overall though, Dead Island 2 is decent and pretty fun. The fact that it's not glitchy and a buggy mess after being stuck in development for so long is an amazing feat in and of itself. You know, many people say that Dead Island 2 is what Dying Light 2 should have been, and well, I guess Dead Island 2 has funner and better combat. I could tell because I actively avoid combat in Dying Light 2, but for exploration, I just gotta give it a Dying Light 2 because it's actually open worlds and not cut into maps, and also the parkour. So is Dead Island 2 worth the $70 it's asking you for? No. I would say it would be better priced at around $30 or $40 maybe. You should definitely wait for a sale or a price drop though. And oh yeah, why is it even called Dead Island 2 when you're not even on an island?